Hi readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. Today I am anticipating participation in Series September. This is an event that my friend Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand and Krista at Books and Jams have done for a couple of years, I think. And I'm really interested in participating because I have a number of series that I am collecting or have collected that I haven't made much of a dent in. Now, some of them are a lot of books in the series, and I probably won't make a dent in them until I am no longer working for a living. But there are some that I can catch up with and kind of complete right away. Now, I'm going to link their channels in the description box below, and there's also a bingo board that comes with this. I don't know that I will be necessarily working toward the bingo board, but I am really intrigued by these prompts and just getting to read some of these that I am really wanting to get to. Now, there's no guarantee that I'm going to get to all of these books in September or any of them, to be honest, but I do think it's likely that I will read more than one because I do kind of want to there's a couple of these that I really kind of want to get knocked off my list and get back to because I missed the series. So let's start with this one, which is a newer release and is book 2 in the Rachel Crawl series. I've talked about this recently before, but it is Dark Corners by Megan Golden. So in September, I will be released from my mandated, superimposed, self-imposed rule of not reading thrillers, and I can get back to this. Rachel Crawl is a podcaster. In this particular novel, there's a man in prison named Terrence Bailey, and he is serving a sentence for a crime, and an influencer comes to interview him in prison and then later goes missing. So there is I'm sure, a suspicion that something has happened to her as a result, maybe of his release. I have heard mixed reviews. I love the cover of this. I have enjoyed Megan Golden before, and I would like to kind of stay on top of this series if I could. This is a fairly new release. So, I mean, look at that. There are a couple other Megan Golden that are also of interest to me. If I were to start a brand new, what I think is a series, I could read The Book That Wouldn't Burn, which is also one of my 5-star predictions for this next little while. This is being billed as book 1 of the library trilogy, I think. It is a fantasy book, and I purchased it not long ago. So this is about a boy who has spent his life trapped inside of a library, and a girl who lives out on the dust, and where she lives, nightmares stalk, and it seems like a very difficult place to be. And it is a chunker. I would like to get to this sooner than later because I'd like to do my 5-star prediction wrap up before the end of the year. Mark Lawrence is a new author to me. This next one is the second in what I think is a complete trilogy, and that is Shadow Spell by Nora Roberts. This is the Cousins O'Dwyer trilogy. Book 1 was called Blood Magic, and I read it a long time ago. I'm not sure that I need to remember completely what this book is about. A lot of Nora Roberts trilogies, though, focus on like 3 brothers or 3 sisters or something like that. And then each one focuses on a different character each time. So Dark Witch definitely was mystical, witchy, horror-y kind of novel. Shadow Spell promises to be the same. I don't know exactly what this is about, except that it follows the character Connor and his sister Brana and Iona. And there's something pretty awful in the atmosphere or in the world, and they have to battle against it. It's been a long, 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 long time since I read Blood Magic, but I'm hoping there's maybe a little bit of kind of remember what happened before. Let's give a little synopsis about that and get to it. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I can find a synopsis somewhere and read it and then carry on with Shadow Spell as promised. So again, book 2 of the Cousins O'Dwyer trilogy. I would love to finish that. I do have all 3 of them. They all match. That made me very happy. It took me a while to curate that. Another one, this is book 2 of a series I started by reading book 1, which was Nevermore. This is Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow. There are, I think, at least 4 at this point. These are young adult. They kind of do have a bit of a, they're not Harry Potter-like, but they have that same kind of vibe, I would say. And Morrigan Crow, in the first book anyway, is a kind of abandoned, forgotten child in a family of people who don't really care for her. And she is called up to go to a special school. And Morgan is a part of the Wondrous Society. And there is a villain that is at play in these. And I don't want to know too much about this, but I would like to finish it. I read the first novel, Nevermore, in like one day. Like I couldn't put it down. So this feels like it could be a really nice, Saturday read for me, and I could knock it out real fast. The House of Memory by Carolyn Haynes, I think I've talked about before. Carolyn Haynes is an author that lives near me, and I do get to see her now and again. She's a tremendous person in real life. She rescues animals and has a bit of an animal sanctuary on her property, but also she writes a couple of series, including this one. This is the second in the Pluto Snitch mystery series. The last time I saw her, I was getting a book signed from another series of hers, and I asked her about this series because I have 4 of them, I think. I have all 4 of them so far. Okay, there are 4. So the first one is the Book of Beloved, which I read. This is the second, The House of Memory. The third is The Spectre of Seduction, which I own on ebook. I don't know why I didn't. I think that was during the pandemic, maybe, so I didn't get it signed, didn't get to meet her. And the fourth is The Visitation of Angels, which is book number 4. Yeah, book number 4. I own that one as well in physical copy. So I would like to get to the end of this series if this is it, or to being caught up on the series if she can, continue to write it. All I know about this one is that the first book ends with Raisa James, who is the main kind of medium / detective in this series, in the Pluto Snitch mystery series. Raisa James at the end of book 1 is confronted by Zelda Fitzgerald. Yes, F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife. So it is set in that period of time, and it's not long, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to it, but she is asked by Zelda to look into something that is mysterious. And that's really all I need to know, but I really would like to get to this sooner than later. The next one I'd like to get to is a long, 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 long series that I may never finish, but that is Laura Child's Tea Shop Mystery series, which this is number, I just looked it up and now I can't remember. Is it 9? This is number 9 in the series, and I haven't read this one. Now, I don't go through these in order, and I probably should, because there are some things that have happened that I have been like, oh, but I don't. I don't buy them in order either. I own a number of them though, and some of them are in paperback, some of them are not. But this one I think is the closest to the top of the list. I have read the first 3 in order, and then I skipped 4 for some reason, and I don't know that I have 4, but again, my books are in boxes, so it's really hard for me to say. Some of my books are not, but and then this one would be, I did read 5. I did not read 6, 7, or 8, so this would be 9, but again, I'm really kind of okay with that. If though, for some reason, before I start this and I find the one that's next in line and that I own it, or if I find it at the library, I may try to go through these in order, because there's a part of me that is like, oh, just read them whenever you get to them. They're fine. They're easy. They're cozy. You don't have to keep track. And then there's a part of me that is more on the order of, dear God, woman, what is wrong with you? Why can't you read these in the order in which they were written and released? Those are my inner voices that torment me all the time. I do love Laura Childs. The main character of this mystery series is Theodosia Browning, which I love. She owns a tea shop. She has a couple of characters that are always in these, which are her friend Drayton, and then she has an assistant who is a woman, and I can't think of her name. They're very, very good. I love Drayton. He's one of my favorite characters. I love Theodosia too, though. And then the last one I'm bringing forward as a possibility for series September is an Anthony Horowitz, who is also one of my favorite authors. Okay, so Anthony Horowitz has a number of series, and I love two of them for sure. This is the Hawthorne and Horowitz series, in which Anthony Horowitz has written about himself as a character. He's written himself into this one. And the other detective, Daniel Hawthorne, is a bit of a challenged detective. And so in book one, he enlists the assistance of Anthony Horowitz in solving a crime. And this continues on. So I don't want to spoil anything, but I also think that they probably are also standalones. I would, though, read the first one just to get the Horowitz-Hawthorne backstory behind you. And then, you know, you could probably read them out of sync, but yeah. So he's also written, the first one is called The Word is Murder, by the way, in case you want to start there, if you want to start a new series in September. And then the other one is the Susan Ryland series, which Magpie Murders is the first. And you've heard me talk about those too. Okay. This one is, these words, "You shouldn't be here, it's too late," were heard over the phone, recorded by divorce lawyer Richard Price, who was then found bludgeoned to death in his apartment with a bottle of wine, which was worth a lot of money. And I suspect that this has some correlation to this murder, but I'm not sure. And this is, as you can tell, also a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which typically means it has a little bit of extra something from the author. There's something added to it each time. And so I'd like to figure out what that is. And this came out a bit ago. Let me see how long ago this one was released. But these are pretty fast for me. You know, I don't feel like I will have any trouble getting through this. Let's see, when were you published? 2019. Anthony Horowitz has also, if you haven't watched my channel before or you missed it somehow, he is a screenplay writer for a number of series that can be found on PBS. And some of them are lengthy and long and tremendous, and they're usually all murder mysteries. He's kind of like the male modern day equivalent of Agatha Christie if she had written more screenplays. So Anthony Horowitz can't be missed in series September. What will I choose for these prompts? Okay. Hyped. Let's see. This one would be hyped for sure, because a lot of people are talking about this one. Some are talking about it in a more favorable way than others. Start a series. This would work for that, if indeed this does end up being more than one book in the library, the library novels. So there's that. Let's see, double. This would be the second in this series, so I could count this for double on that bingo prompt. Would also count for chunky for sure. I'm going to link the bingo board so you can take a look at it too. If I can share it, I'll just make sure I can. But if not, it'll be on Sarah or Krista's channel. Triple, let's see. Let's do old. This is super old. I've had this for a really long time. This one isn't new either. So either one of those could work. Also, this would work for old because it is set in that time period. So it's definitely an older setting for sure. I don't think any of these will finish a series for me. So if I think of something else that would finish a series, I could add that. This one's new, so that would count for 2 bingo prompts if I were going to do that. And what recommended? You know, these aren't necessarily hyped a whole lot by anyone I'm watching anyway. So I don't know that I have one for recommended, and I certainly don't at this point have one for finish. I have been thinking about the Tana French series. So if I decided to read one of those in the month of September or 2 of those, that might count as well. So I certainly could deviate from this list. I'm not going to hold myself completely tethered to this particular list. I think that's about all I could count, but also that's all I'm going to add, because if I add too many more, I'll get overwhelmed. Now, am I going to stick to this completely? As I said, no, probably not. I'm very fickle when it comes to TBRs, but also sometimes when I have a bit of a TBR or a guide for the TBR, I do tend to push myself toward finishing or at least getting a pretty big dent into that goal. So you never know. But those are my potential reads for series September that I'm thinking about already now so that I can be prepared. And also, I'm going to think very carefully in September about what I add to my library. I may even try to do a no haul September. We'll see. It's hard because there's a lot of really good books coming out in September. But thanks for watching today. Thanks for your comments, for your subscription, for your just support in all ways. I appreciate all of you so, so very much. And as always, happy reading. Bye.